My father burned my diploma at my graduation dinner while 30 people watched. He held the lighter steady, let the flame kiss the corner of the paper, and said, "You don't deserve Grandpa's money." The whole thing curled into ash right there on the white tablecloth. Everyone gasped. Someone dropped their fork. My mother didn't even flinch. But here's the thing, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I smiled, stood up, and walked out. Because what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that burning that piece of paper changed absolutely nothing. And the following week, they were going to find out exactly how badly they'd miscalculated. My name is Reese Rothwell, and this is the story of how my family tried to take everything from me, and how I took my life back. Growing up, I learned to be quiet. Not because I was shy or lacking in opinions, but because in my family, silence was survival. My parents, Conrad and Caroline, they loved the idea of a perfect family. The kind you'd photograph for Christmas cards. The kind other people would envy. And my younger sister Amelia? She was their masterpiece. Golden hair, easy smile, artistic soul, at least that's how they sold it to everyone. She was the daughter they dressed up, bragged about, centered their entire world around. I was the other one. The practical daughter. The quiet one. The one they'd forget to introduce at parties unless someone specifically asked, "Don't you have another daughter?" I learned where I stood early. When I was 11, I dragged my robot project across the school gym by myself because Dad was driving Amelia to an after-school art thing. At 15, I took an overnight bus to a research program while my parents flew Amelia to some fashion conference in Portland. And at 17, when I won a statewide scholarship, I scanned that auditorium looking for them. They weren't there. But Grandpa Rothwell was. Standing quietly in the back row like he always did, hands in his pockets, smiling at me like I'd just done something extraordinary. Because to him, I had. Grandpa was the only one who actually saw me. He understood how my brain worked, how I didn't need to be loud to matter. He taught me things my parents never bothered with. How to read a contract. How to replace a circuit board. How to hold your ground without raising your voice. Silence can be a strategy, not a surrender, he told me once. Maybe that's why I never fought back when my mother dismissed my achievements with a casual nod, or when my father insisted Amelia had the brighter future. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I didn't need their validation. But that wasn't completely true. There were nights in my college dorm when I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wondering what it would feel like if just once, my parents were actually proud of me. Not proud of how little trouble I caused, but proud of who I was becoming. Proud of the things I was accomplishing entirely on my own. I thought graduation night might be that moment. I imagined my dad shaking my hand, my mom pulling me in for a picture, Amelia teasing me the way sisters do when nobody's watching. I wanted one night where we actually felt like a family. Instead, we sat at this upscale restaurant with warm lighting and polished silverware, and I felt that familiar distance settle between us like fog. Every question they asked about my new software engineering job came with this edge to it, like they were waiting for me to admit I'd gotten lucky. That I didn't actually deserve it. Amelia talked about her plans in these vague, grand terms. New art studios. Travel. Future opportunities that somehow always involved my parents' checkbook. I tried to push down the unease crawling up my spine. It was my graduation. One night. I just wanted something that resembled a family memory I could hold on to. But people show you who they really are when they think they own you. And that night, my parents showed me everything. The tension didn't explode right away. It built slowly, like storm clouds gathering behind small talk. I noticed it in how my dad kept checking his watch, how my mom's smile got tighter every time someone congratulated me, how Amelia sat back in her chair like she already knew how the evening would end. I tried to stay present. I answered questions about my job, kept my tone light, sipped water to ground myself. But underneath it all, something felt off. Like the three of them had rehearsed something before walking into that restaurant. It started when dessert arrived. My father cleared his throat, that sharp sound that demands attention. He reached into his leather bag and pulled out a brown folder, sliding it across the table toward me. "Reese," he said, "this is important." My mother folded her arms. Amelia tucked a curl behind her ear, smiling like she already knew the punchline to a joke I hadn't heard yet. I opened the folder just enough to see what was inside. Financial statements. Property details. Something notarized. My pulse jumped. I knew exactly what this was. My father didn't ease into it. He never does. Your grandfather trusted you, he said. But you already have a stable job. Amelia is just starting out. Sign the transfer so she can manage the inheritance. It's what family does. Family. Interesting how that word only showed up when they wanted something. I kept my voice steady. I'm not signing anything. The table went silent. Amelia blinked, actually surprised I'd said no out loud. My mother's lips pressed into this thin, judgmental line. My father leaned forward like he hadn't heard me right. Reese, he said, slower this time, don't be difficult. This is for the family. I repeated it. No. It was the first time in 24 years I'd told them no without apologizing for it afterward. My father's face shifted. Confusion, then irritation, then something darker. You don't understand what's at stake, he said. But I did. For once, I understood everything perfectly. When Amelia let out the small scoff, something inside me snapped. She whispered, "Come on, Reese. You weren't even close to Grandpa. Why would he leave you anything real?" My throat tightened. Not with tears, but with absolute clarity. They had never seen me as anything but a placeholder. Someone to mine for emotional labor, for quiet compliance, for whatever they needed in the moment. I sat back, breathing evenly. I'm not signing. That's when my father stood up, grabbed my diploma from his bag, and flicked open a lighter. His eyes locked onto mine. Challenging, cruel, certain he could still break me. You don't deserve Grandpa's money, he said. The blue flame touched the corner of the paper. The entire room gasped as it curled into black ash. But inside me, something shifted. Quiet. Steady. Irreversible. Not broken. Awake. The flame should have terrified me. It should have destroyed me, sent me spiraling the way Conrad expected. Instead, as my diploma turned to ash, something inside me went completely still. Guests murmured. Silverware clattered. Someone reached for their phone. Amelia's smile faltered, confusion flickering across her face. My mother didn't move at all. She just watched me, waiting for me to fall apart so she could call it overreacting. But I didn't fall apart. I watched the ashes drift onto the white tablecloth and felt light. Years of being overlooked, dismissed, managed like an inconvenience, it all crystallized into one clear truth. There was nothing left here worth holding on to. My father seemed almost disappointed I wasn't crying. This is what happens when you forget who supports you, he said. Funny. I couldn't remember a single time they'd actually supported me. I stood up slowly, smoothing the hem of my dress. Are you done? I asked. He blinked, startled by how calm I was. Amelia reached out like she was going to grab my wrist. Reese, don't be dramatic. I stepped back before she could touch me. Her hand froze in midair. My mother finally spoke, her voice low and cold. If you walk out now, you're choosing to divide this family. The irony almost made me laugh. They divided this family long before I learned to spell my own name. I picked up my purse, placed my napkin neatly on the table, and met all three of their eyes, one by one. I'm not the one dividing anything, I said. I'm just done pretending this is a family. Gasps rippled across the table, but I wasn't doing this for show. I wasn't performing pain. I was simply done being small. I turned and walked out of that restaurant, heels clicking softly against tile. No one followed. They were too stunned, or too proud, or both. Outside, the night air wrapped around me. Cool. Damp. Grounding. The street smelled faintly of rain. Cars rolled by in a steady rhythm. For the first time all evening, I could actually breathe. I ordered a ride, slid into the back seat, and stared at my reflection in the window. My eyes weren't red. My hands didn't shake. I looked like someone who'd finally stopped trying to earn love that would never come. Aunt Ruby's apartment in Hillcrest was dim and warm when I arrived. She'd left the door unlocked, a mug on the counter, chamomile tea bags beside the kettle. No questions. No pity. Just space. Lying on her couch that night, I replayed everything. Not with anger, but with understanding. Their cruelty wasn't sudden. It was practiced. Expected. And yet, I hadn't broken. I'd smiled. I'd walked away. Because deep down, I knew something they didn't. Their performance tonight wasn't the end of the story. It was the final mistake that made the truth impossible to hide. And next week, at the lawyer's office, they were going to understand just how badly they'd misjudged me. The morning after the dinner, sunlight filtered through Aunt Ruby's curtains. Soft and warm, like it didn't know my entire life had shifted overnight. I expected to wake up shaken, furious, maybe even heartbroken. Instead, I felt this unfamiliar calm. Steady, grounded, sharp. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Amelia's texts came first. Short, smug, dripping with entitlement. Thanks for the room, sis. I'm repainting it blush pink. You don't mind, right? It's not like you ever liked that house anyway. And hey, maybe try being supportive for once. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Not from tears. From clarity. She genuinely believed the house was already hers. Then came my father's email. 3 pages long. Buried beneath the accusations, ungrateful, selfish, dramatic, was a single message. Give up the inheritance. Fix the mess you caused. Be the daughter we want. I closed the email without finishing it. Finally, my mother called. Not to apologize. Not to ask if I was safe. She launched straight into strategy, like the dinner had been a negotiation that went slightly off script. Your father didn't mean it, she said, her voice watery. You know how he gets when he's stressed. Just sign it, Reese. This isn't worth tearing the family apart. But it already was torn. I just stopped pretending the cracks were decorative. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't remind her they'd burned the single greatest thing I'd ever earned. I simply hung up. Then I powered off my phone entirely. Because there was only one conversation that mattered now. I opened my laptop and wrote a single email to Mr. Sterling, my grandfather's lawyer. It's time. He replied within minutes. Next week. Santa Monica office. They'll all be notified. I set the laptop aside, leaned back into Aunt Ruby's couch, and exhaled. For the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. The week passed quietly. A strange contrast to the storm building underneath. At work, I focused on code reviews and project planning, slipping into the part of my life that actually made sense. In the evenings, I stayed at Aunt Ruby's place. Drinking tea. Helping with small tasks. Watching old movies. She didn't push me to talk. She just sat with me. A silent anchor in a world that had tilted. Your grandfather saw this coming, she told me one night. He trusted you for a reason. I nodded, though the weight of that trust pressed heavy on my chest. When the day finally came, I drove to Santa Monica early. The sky was cloudless. Bright. Almost mocking. I parked in front of the law office, smoothed my blazer, and walked inside. The lobby smelled faintly of polished wood and citrus cleaning spray. Mr. Sterling greeted me with a solemn nod. They're on their way. Are you ready? I've been ready for years, I replied. We entered the conference room together. Long table. Tall windows. Leather chairs too stiff to be comfortable. At the center lay a stack of documents, bound neatly. The weight of an entire legacy sealed in clean white pages. 5 minutes later, the door opened. My father walked in first. Jaw tight. Eyes sharp with indignation. My mother followed, her expression pinched like she was bracing for embarrassment. Amelia strolled behind them, phone in hand, sunglasses perched on her head like she was heading to brunch instead of a legal proceeding. She froze when she saw me. Seriously? She muttered. You actually think this is going to change anything? I didn't respond. They sat across from me. A perfect divide. A perfect metaphor. Mr. Sterling started without ceremony. As stated in the official will of Mr. Rothwell, the room stilled. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. He read line after line. Details. Dates. Signatures. Witness statements. And then the part they never expected. The full estate, including all properties, investments, and business shares, is to be transferred solely to his granddaughter, Reese Rothwell. My mother's lips parted. Amelia's jaw dropped. My father lurched forward. That's impossible, he snapped. He promised. No, Mr. Sterling interrupted calmly. He didn't. Amelia slammed her hand on the table. I already put a deposit on a studio space. You can't just. I looked at her. Steady. Unblinking. It's not yours to spend. She shook her head, her voice rising now. You don't even like the house. You don't even care about Grandpa's company. You were never there. I was the one who. You were the one who showed up for photo ops. I cut her off, my voice quiet but firm. I was there every summer. Learning the business. Understanding what he built. While you were posting pictures, I was actually listening. Her face flushed red. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. My father tried again, leaning into the force he'd used my entire life. You're too young to handle any of this. You'll ruin everything. Amelia is. Amelia is entitled, I said quietly, but sharper than any shout. And you taught her to be. The silence that followed was thick, uneasy, revealing. Then Mr. Sterling clicked a remote. A video appeared on the screen. Grandpa sat in his study, frail, but his eyes still sharp. If you're watching this, he began, it means Reese kept her promise to stay silent until the truth could speak for itself. My mother covered her mouth. My father stared at the screen, frozen. Amelia whispered, no. Grandpa continued. I watched you dismiss her accomplishments. I watched you celebrate one child while ignoring another. I watched Reese grow strong in ways you never bothered to see. The room pulsed with tension. No one breathed. Conrad, Caroline, he said, looking directly into the camera, you failed her as parents. But she succeeded anyway. Not because of you. In spite of you. And I am leaving her everything because strength should be trusted, not exploited. Because loyalty should be rewarded, not taken for granted. He paused, his voice softening. Reese, if you're watching this, know that I see you. I've always seen you. And I'm proud of the woman you've become. The video ended. Silence swelled like a tide. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not breaking. Opening. Like I'd been holding my breath for 24 years and could finally exhale. I stood, placing my hands lightly on the table. This wasn't revenge, I said. This was justice. And this, I gestured toward the contracts, is me choosing myself. My father's face crumpled. Not with remorse, but with the realization that control was slipping through his fingers. My mother looked down, tears brimming, but I noticed she wasn't crying for me. She was crying for what she'd lost. Amelia covered her face, shaking her head as her future rewrote itself in real time. This isn't fair, she whispered. You're right, I said. It's not fair. It wasn't fair when I carried my projects alone. It wasn't fair when you got everything while I got silence. But fair isn't what you're owed. Fair is what you earn. I gathered the documents Mr. Sterling handed me, slid them into my folder, and stepped back from the table. You burned my diploma, I told my father. But you didn't burn my future. You never had that power. You just convinced me you did. No one spoke. No one dared. I walked out of that office into the bright California sun. And for the first time in my life, the light actually felt warm. 3 months passed, and the world felt different. Quieter. Lighter. Mine. I moved into a small apartment on the southern edge of San Jose, close enough to walk to the tech district each morning. The place wasn't large, but it felt safe in a way nothing from my childhood ever had. A single framed photo sat on my desk. Grandpa and me in the backyard, both of us laughing at something only we remembered. Work shifted too. I stepped into a leadership role at the company, rebuilding the structure from the inside out. No politics. No nepotism. Just competence. People seemed to breathe easier. Employees who once looked defeated now met me with steady, hopeful eyes. One of them, an older engineer named Arthur, stopped me in the hallway one day. "You know," he said, "your grandfather would talk about you. How smart you were. How you actually listened. We all wondered when you'd come back." "I'm not going anywhere," I told him. And I meant it. I never heard from my family again. Not a call. Not an email. Not even a message from Amelia, who had once been unable to stay silent for more than an hour. And strangely, I didn't miss them. What I did feel was peace. Steady. Honest. Earned. At night, I'd stand on my balcony and watch the city lights flicker like distant stars. For once, my mind wasn't racing. I didn't wonder what I'd done wrong or what I needed to fix. I wasn't shrinking myself to fit someone else's comfort. I'd finally stepped into a life where I didn't have to ask permission to exist. Sometimes I think about that night. The flames. The silence. The way I walked out without looking back. But now, standing on my balcony with the San Jose breeze brushing past me, I understand something Grandpa tried to teach me all along. Strength isn't loud. It's choosing yourself even when no one claps. My family lost control the moment I stopped needing their approval. And the inheritance? It wasn't just money or property. It was proof that someone saw me for who I really was. That I mattered. That I was enough. That's the real gift Grandpa gave me. Not wealth. Worth. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself when the people who should love you most try to take everything from you. Sometimes the family you're born into teaches you exactly who you don't want to become.